70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens were just another blip on the radar, a small, struggling primate species. We were fringe dwellers, our population numbers so tiny they'd make today's polar bear census look robust. We were certainly not the architects of civilization, not the dreamers of stars, just surviving. Then, something extraordinary happened. In what amounts to a blink of an eye in geological time, a mere few millennia, we didn't just evolve, we exploded. Suddenly, inexplicably, we were creating art that still moves us, developing complex religions that shaped entire cultures, mastering mathematics that unlocked the universe's secrets, and building empires that stretched across continents. It was a leap, not a crawl. So what gives? Was it just a lucky roll of the genetic dice? A random mutation hitting the jackpot? Or was there something more? Something profoundly deliberate? Could it have been a single, meticulously crafted upgrade slipped into our very genome, setting us on a trajectory we still don't fully understand? Look, our mainstream textbooks, the ones that mapped out our understanding of human history, they'll tell you a neat, tidy story. They swear that humanity's ascent was a gradual, painstaking process, a slow and steady climb up the evolutionary ladder. But here's where the narrative starts to fray, where the cracks in that timeline become impossible to ignore. Because when you actually dig into the fossil record, when you look at the archaeological evidence, what you find isn't a smooth incline. It's a razor-thin sliver of time that separates two vastly different versions of us. One moment, we're chipping away at crude hand axes, tools that scream basic survival, raw ingenuity, but nothing more. We're living hand to mouth, much like any other advanced primate. And then, almost without transition, we're etching intricate lunar calendars onto bone, tracking celestial cycles, demonstrating an abstract understanding of time and cosmology that feels utterly alien to the hand axe-wielding ancestor just a few thousand years prior. It's like watching a black and white silent film suddenly burst into IMAX 3D. Geneticists, bless their meticulous hearts, they've even given this phenomenon a name, the Great Leap Forward. It's an acknowledgement of this undeniable, almost instantaneous surge in cognitive ability, artistic expression, and technological innovation. But here's the kicker. Even they can't pinpoint the adaptive pressure, the environmental catalyst, the evolutionary push that triggered such a monumental shift in our species. Evolution, by its very nature, is a patient, incremental sculptor, working in tiny, almost imperceptible changes over vast epochs. It doesn't do sudden. Sudden, my friends, is the domain of engineers. Sudden is when someone or something decides to build a better model, to implement a rapid design change. It's a software update, not a slow hardware upgrade. And that's a distinction that should make us all pause and wonder, what kind of engineer could have orchestrated such a profound, rapid transformation in our species? Now, let's talk about our very blueprint, the instruction manual that makes us, our DNA. It's a marvel of biological engineering, a double helix of information. In 2013, a team of brilliant scientists at the University of Washington embarked on a fascinating, almost audacious project. They painstakingly compared every single base pair in human DNA against the genetic code of every other vertebrate on Earth. Think about that for a second. A massive comparative genetic audit across the entire animal kingdom. They were looking for common ancestry, for the shared threads that weave through all life. What they found was unsettling. Amidst the familiar patterns and evolutionary links, they discovered something truly anomalous. 223 distinct base pairs within our own human genome that simply have no earthly ancestor. None. Zero. These weren't just slight variations, these were genetic sequences that didn't appear to have evolved from anything else on this planet. When these findings emerged, the peer-reviewed journals, those bastions of scientific rigor, found themselves in a peculiar bind. Unable to explain them within the conventional evolutionary framework, they simply shrugged, labeled these inexplicable sequences orphans, and, well, moved on. It was a classic case of we don't know, so let's put a label on it and table it. But for ancient astronaut theorists, the ones who dared to look beyond the accepted dogma, these orphans weren't an anomaly to be filed away. Oh no, they saw them as something far more profound, a watermark, a subtle yet undeniable signature. Tiny, deliberate insertions, almost like lines of code, that they argue were meticulously placed to rewire crucial aspects of our biology. Specifically, these sequences are implicated in the development of our neural growth factors, the very things that govern the complexity and capacity of our brains, and our speech centers, the biological machinery that allows for complex language and abstract thought. Think about the implications, a targeted genetic intervention that supercharged our cognitive abilities and gave us the power of sophisticated communication. If these theorists are right, if these 223 base pairs are indeed an extraterrestrial watermark, then we might just have stumbled upon the smoking gun, the undeniable proof of a deliberate uplift, a cosmic hack that transformed us from mere primates into the complex, questioning, and often bewildered beings we are today. It's a thought that shifts our entire understanding of self, isn't it? That perhaps the very essence of what makes us human was a gift or an experiment from beyond the stars. Let's hit the rewind button way, way back. Fast forward about 5,800 years from today, and we land smack dab in the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia. This is where the Sumerians, a people of astonishing sophistication, emerged seemingly out of nowhere, giving us writing, cities, and advanced astronomy. And what did they have to say about their own origins? Well, it's not exactly the story you find in standard history books. Their ancient texts, painstakingly carved into clay tablets, paint a picture that's far more cosmic. Take the Sumerian king list, for instance. This isn't some vague prophecy, it's a historical record, a chronicle of rulers. And it states, with an almost casual matter-of-factness, that kingship descended from heaven. Not just metaphorically, mind you, but literally. It goes on to describe the very first rulers as sky people who knew the secret of making men. Think about that phrase, making men. It's not guiding men or teaching men. It's explicitly about creation. Then there's the Epic of Enki, another cornerstone of Sumerian mythology. This epic poem describes a goddess, Ninhursag, who, under the guidance of the deity Enki, engages in a process that sounds eerily like genetic engineering. She's depicted as sewing intelligence threads into clay figurines, breathing life and intellect into them. Clay, blood, and sudden intellect. Does that not sound remarkably like a mythological wrapper for a highly advanced genetic editing process? The clay representing the raw biological material, the blood perhaps signifying DNA or vital essence, and the intelligence threads being the precise genetic modifications. It's easy to dismiss these as mere myths, fanciful tales from a primitive past. But what if myths aren't just stories? What if they're ancient memories, passed down through generations, attempting to explain events that were so far beyond their technological comprehension that they could only be described in terms of gods and magic? The Sumerians, remember, were incredibly advanced for their time. Their astronomical knowledge was astounding, their legal systems complex. Were these just the ramblings of primitive minds, or were they recounting a truth that they couldn't fully articulate? Across the globe, similar narratives echo. Egyptian hieroglyphs speak of sky gods who brought knowledge and civilization. Mayan legends tell of creators who fashioned humans from maize and blood, imbuing them with wisdom. These aren't isolated incidents. They're a recurring motif, a universal whisper across ancient cultures. We weren't just born, we were made, or at least significantly modified by beings who came from the heavens. Could these ancient lab notes be telling us precisely how humanity got its sudden, inexplicable upgrade? The idea that these stories are thinly veiled accounts of extraterrestrial intervention is gaining traction, suggesting that our past is far more complex and far less accidental than we've been led to believe. Let's shift gears from ancient texts to celestial mechanics, because sometimes the stars themselves hold the most compelling clues. Enter Zecharia Sitchin, a controversial but undeniably influential scholar who dedicated his life to translating ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets. Now, Sitchin's work is often met with skepticism, and rightly so, as much of it is interpretation. But among his most striking claims was the translation of text that, he argued, mapped out our solar system with an additional massive body, a 12th planet, counting the sun and the moon as celestial bodies, as the ancients sometimes did, that the Sumerians called Nibiru. This wasn't just any planet. According to Sitchin's interpretations, Nibiru was an eccentric giant, a colossal celestial wanderer whose highly elliptical orbit brought it near Earth only once every 3,600 years. Imagine a planet so vast, so powerful, that its gravitational pull could influence the very fabric of our solar system, making a periodic, dramatic appearance in our skies. Now, here's where it gets truly wild and undeniably intriguing. For decades, the idea of a Planet X or a 12th planet was largely dismissed by mainstream astronomy as pseudoscience, confined to the fringes of ancient astronaut theory. But then a funny thing happened. In recent years, our own modern astronomical observations have started to hint at something very similar. Scientists observing the unusual clustering and orbital anomalies of objects in the Kuiper Belt beyond Neptune began to postulate the existence of a massive, as yet undiscovered planet. They've even given it a name, Planet 9. And here's the kicker. Planet 9, whose projected orbit is being meticulously calculated by NASA and other institutions, matches the ancient Sumerian numbers within a staggering 0.2%. Let that sink in. An ancient civilization, without telescopes or advanced physics, described a celestial body whose existence and orbital characteristics are now being independently confirmed by 21st century science. Is that merely a coincidence? A lucky guess from millennia ago? Or is it something far more profound? Could these ancient orbital charts be, in essence, a celestial lab schedule, a cosmic calendar marking the periodic return of our alleged makers? If Nibiru or Planet 9 or whatever name we give it truly does swing by every 3,600 years, it provides a perfectly plausible mechanism for periodic check-ins, for the gardeners to return to their garden. It gives a rhythm, a cadence to the alleged interventions that shaped our species. The convergence of ancient mythology and modern astronomical prediction on this one specific point is simply too precise to ignore. It forces us to ask, what else did the Sumerians know that we're only just beginning to rediscover? And what happens when that 3,600-year cycle brings our mysterious celestial visitor back into our neighborhood once more? Let's talk about structures that defy explanation, monuments that whisper secrets across millennia. I'm talking, of course, about the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's not just a pile of stones. It's an architectural and engineering marvel built with the precision that still baffles modern construction experts. But what if its purpose was far more sophisticated than just a tomb for a pharaoh or even a giant calendar? What if it was, in fact, a piece of highly advanced technology left behind by those who engineered us? Consider this. The Great Pyramid sits on the exact geographical center of Earth's landmass, not just roughly, but with an astonishing degree of accuracy. How did an ancient civilization without satellites or global mapping technology achieve such a feat? This precise placement suggests a deliberate global understanding of our planet. But the real mind-bender comes when we look inside. The granite chambers within the pyramid have been found to resonate at a specific frequency, 438 hertz. Now, why is that significant? Because that very same frequency has been shown in modern EEG studies to stimulate human frontal lobes. Yes, the part of your brain responsible for complex thought, decision-making, and self-awareness. It's not just a hum, it's a frequency that literally interacts with our consciousness. And the plot thickens. Fast forward to 2022, when physicists at ITMO University conducted groundbreaking research. They demonstrated that the Great Pyramid, due to its unique shape and composition, is capable of focusing electromagnetic energy within its chambers. More astonishingly, they showed that this resonance can actually boost superconductivity in modern chips. Superconductivity, for those unfamiliar, is a state where electrical resistance vanishes, allowing for incredibly efficient energy transfer. We're talking about properties that hint at an advanced understanding of physics far beyond what ancient Egyptians are conventionally credited with. So let's connect the dots. A structure precisely located on Earth's center, resonating at a frequency that stimulates human brains and capable of enhancing superconductivity. Is this merely a tomb? Or was it part of something much grander, a planet-wide calibration grid? Imagine a network of such structures, strategically placed around the globe, designed not for burial, but for monitoring, for fine-tuning, for maintaining a vast, complex experiment. Were these colossal stone monuments actually sophisticated antennas, quietly calibrating the environment, perhaps even influencing the very minds of the experiment subjects, us? The implications are staggering. If the pyramids were not just monuments, but part of a global energy or communication network, it radically redefines our understanding of ancient history and the capabilities of those who built them. It suggests a level of technological sophistication that points to an external influence, a grand design that transcends conventional archaeology. They weren't just building for the afterlife, they were building for an ongoing interaction, a continuous dialogue with the gardeners who put us here. Let's zoom in on a period that historians call the Neolithic Revolution, but which, from a different perspective, looks more like a sudden download. We're talking about the window between 11,000 and 9,000 BCE. Before this, humanity was largely nomadic, hunter-gatherer societies, living at the mercy of their environment. Then, something unprecedented happened, something that defies statistical probability. Within a mere 2 centuries, a blink in the eye of history, we domesticated 27 key crops. Think about that. Wheat, barley, rice, corn, potatoes, the foundational staples that feed billions. Not only that, but we also domesticated every major livestock species: cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, chickens. This wasn't a gradual trial-and-error process spread over millennia, as evolutionary theory might suggest for such monumental shifts. This was a compressed, explosive burst of innovation. It's as if humanity suddenly gained an encyclopedic knowledge of botany, animal husbandry, and selective breeding seemingly overnight. To put this into perspective, imagine the odds of stumbling upon, identifying, and then successfully domesticating such a vast array of vital plants and animals, all within such a narrow time frame. and then disseminating that knowledge globally. Statistical models run by researchers at Cornell University, for example, have crunched these numbers. Their conclusion? The odds of that happening purely by chance, through random discovery and independent innovation, hover around an astonishingly low 0.0003%. That's practically zero. Those aren't just slim odds. Those are you just won the cosmic lottery a million times over odds. This isn't evolution. It's acceleration. It's not a slow, organic growth. It's a sudden, almost jarring advancement. It's like someone unlocked a massive downloadable content pack, a DLC pack, titled Agriculture, and instantly granted humanity the knowledge and tools necessary to transition from precarious hunter-gatherers to settled, food-producing civilizations. Where did this DLC pack come from? How did this incredibly improbable, yet undeniably rapid agricultural revolution occur? It's tempting to attribute it to human ingenuity, and certainly our ancestors were ingenious. But the sheer speed, the breadth of domestication, and the statistical improbability of it all happening simultaneously across different regions suggest a coordinated, perhaps even guided intervention. It speaks to a moment when the rules of human development were suddenly rewritten, granting us the foundational knowledge necessary to build permanent settlements, complex societies, and ultimately the empires we discussed earlier. This sudden civilization syndrome isn't just a historical anomaly. It's a glaring signpost pointing towards a deliberate external influence, a helping hand that steered humanity onto a path of accelerated development, preparing us for what was to come next. Let's circle back to that nagging cosmic question, the one that keeps astronomers up at night, the Fermi paradox. If the galaxy is teeming with life, if the universe is so ancient and vast that countless civilizations should have risen and fallen by now, then where in the cosmos is everyone? Why this deafening silence? Why no clear signals, no obvious visits, no galactic empire stretching across the stars? It's a question that has haunted humanity, leading to theories ranging from the Great Filter, something that prevents life from becoming interstellar, to the idea that we might be alone. But what if the answer, the truly unsettling answer, is far simpler and far more intimate? What if they're here? What if they've always been here, hiding in plain sight, just beyond the veil of our perception, operating under a set of rules we're only now beginning to comprehend? This is where the prime directive comes into play, a concept borrowed from science fiction, but giving a chillingly literal interpretation in this context. Perhaps there's a galactic code of conduct, a strict policy of non-interference with developing civilizations, a directive that mandates a hands-off approach, allowing nascent species to evolve naturally, to stumble and rise on their own. But here's the crucial, terrifying twist. What if that prime directive only applies until Harvest Day? Imagine a cosmic deadline, a preordained moment when the experiment reaches its climax, when the crop is ripe for collection. Until then, the farmers maintain their distance, carefully observing, subtly nudging, ensuring the optimal growth of their intelligent species. They don't reveal themselves overtly because they don't want to contaminate the results, to influence the natural development of the intelligence they are cultivating. They want a pure, unadulterated yield. And that brings us to the most profound and perhaps most disturbing implication of this entire theory. We don't see the farmers because we are the corn. We are the cultivated species, the product of their long-term genetic and social engineering project. Our entire civilization, our technological advancements, our philosophical musings, our very struggles and triumphs, they are all part of a grand dataset, a meticulously recorded experiment. We are the subjects, and they are the scientists. We are the crop, and they are the cultivators. The silence isn't emptiness, it's deliberate quietude. The lack of overt contact isn't because they're absent, it's because they're present, observing from behind the scenes, waiting for the opportune moment. This perspective doesn't just answer the Fermi paradox, it obliterates it, replacing cosmic loneliness with a chilling sense of cosmic purpose. A purpose that might not necessarily align with our own self-perceived destiny. It suggests that our existence is not just a random happenstance, but a carefully planned, meticulously executed, and continuously monitored project. So, if this grand experiment, this elaborate cosmic farming project, has been ongoing for millennia, where are we now? Are we reaching a critical juncture? The answer, startlingly, seems to be yes. Human technological advancement, particularly in areas touching upon our very biology and consciousness, is accelerating at an unprecedented rate, bringing us to the cusp of what one might call self-uplift. Consider CRISPR, the revolutionary gene editing technology. What was once the stuff of science fiction is now a reality. We can edit genes in vivo inside living organisms. We can potentially correct genetic defects, enhance capabilities, and even design new biological traits. We're gaining the power to consciously alter our own genetic code, to become, in essence, our own engineers. We're on the verge of not just editing our hardware, but upgrading our software, fundamentally changing what it means to be human. These advancements aren't just scientific milestones, they represent a profound shift. We are, for the first time in our recorded history, gaining the tools to perform the very kind of uplift that ancient texts suggest was performed on us. We are approaching the moment when we can take control of our own evolution to consciously design our future. And here's where the ancient texts, those Sumerian lab notes and other mythological accounts, offer a chilling prophecy. They often speak of a time when the gods would return, not just for a casual visit, but to judge the workmanship, to assess the fruits of their labor, to see what their experiment has wrought. Is it a coincidence that our own technological trajectory is bringing us to a point of self-transformation precisely when these ancient narratives predict the return of our alleged makers? The implications are stark. The experiment could culminate in one of two ways. It could end with graduation, where humanity, having proven its intelligence and capabilities, is welcomed into a larger galactic community, perhaps even given new roles or responsibilities. Or it could end with termination. If we fail to meet their criteria, if our crop is deemed unsatisfactory, or worse, if we've become a threat to the larger galactic order, then the petri dish could be sterilized for the next run. The experiment reset. The question isn't if the gods will return, but when and what judgment they will render upon our accelerated progress. Are we ready to face our creators, not as awestruck primitives, but as self-aware beings who have begun to master the very tools they might have used on us? The test tube is getting hot, and the final assessment may be closer than any of us dare to imagine. If these revelations have rattled your perception of history, if you're finding yourself questioning the narratives you once took for granted, then do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss our next deep dive into the artifacts, the anomalies, and the secrets that governments and institutions have tried so desperately to keep buried. And hey, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below with the single most mind-bending piece of evidence, the one anomaly that truly convinced you that we were engineered. I'll be pinning the most thought-provoking ones. Let's unravel this mystery together. So, what is it really? Random evolution? A series of fortunate accidents that led to our improbable existence? Or a cosmic code patch, a deliberate upgrade inserted into our biological software by an intelligence far older, far more advanced than Earth itself? If this is true, then the real conspiracy isn't that they visited us once, long ago, and then left. Oh no, the real conspiracy, the truly chilling implication, is that they never left. They've been here, all along, observing, guiding, and waiting. And if they're still here, still tending their cosmic garden, then the final data pull, the moment of reckoning, may be closer than any of us dared to imagine. When that eccentric orbit swings back around, when the veiled observers finally reveal themselves, how will we greet our makers? Will we stand before them as equals, having achieved our self-uplift, ready to join a larger galactic tapestry? Or will the petri dish be deemed a failure, sterilized and reset for the next run, our entire history simply a discarded experiment in a cosmic laboratory? The open question remains, echoing across the vastness of space and time. What is our true purpose? And what happens when the gardeners return?